Okay, hello, welcome to another episode of Hiring and Inspiring. Today's guest is Shane Sullivan. Shane is an esteemed sales leader. He's been in the sales industry for many years, progressed into many a leadership position, background in leading teams across different B2B, commercial and industrial spaces and sectors. So I'm really looking forward to having a chat to him today and getting under the skin of what makes him tick, what his journey has looked like, and what he's learned over the years. So, Shane, with that introduction, welcome to the show. How are you getting on?
Not bad, Joe. Thanks for having me. It's always good fun to have a chat with you and see where we end up.
Appreciate it, mate. Appreciate you taking the time. So, firstly, I should say a bit more. Shane's currently at a business called Tipa Packaging in the compostable packaging space. He's been there a year or so. Senior role in the business. A year or so into the venture. How's it all going? How's it all getting on?
Yeah, it's a really interesting space. We are in the forefront of the battle with plastics, the change of move towards a circular economy. Um, we are we're a startup. We still consider ourselves a startup. We're a clean technology business. We've got a really interesting model in that we don't actually have any manufacturing assets. We just take our IP and go into a region and find the right partners to work with. I simple it down to we provide the ingredients and the recipe, and then our partners will actually bake the cake and make the product. So it's a really interesting model in a really interesting space. The sustainability world is forever changing and moving, and it's something I'm really passionate about.
That was actually my next question. That sustainability piece.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of talk about that in the moment, and a bit of a buzzword. But how did you find yourself in that industry, and how passionate, and where did that passion for the sustainability industry come from?
Yeah, it's a really interesting concept where this evolution of sustainability has been around. It's just about doing the right thing by the environment. It's about doing the right thing, which I totally adhere to and think that we've got a responsibility to. We're at a tipping point where the next 25 years, five times as much plastic is going to be produced as ever's been produced before today. So we're at the tipping point of where we need to make a change. But the thinking around it has changed. I'm trying to implement thinking about doing the right thing by the environment and making this change doesn't mean that you can't be profitable at the same time. That businesses can actually take market share and can be a leader in this space, and where it's actually, I think it's the new battleground for business. Products and services that we all sell and all have in our industries are critical, but it's that point of difference. How do you make a point of difference? And this sustainability area is an area where businesses can say, yeah, we do this, but this is what we're passionate about. This is who we are. And I think consumers are buying into that more than ever before. It's your products and services are important, but it's who you are as a business. What do you value? What are you trying to accomplish outside of simply making profit? You can do both.
Yeah. So does that help you sort of get out of bed in the morning, knowing that you're doing something that you love, growing a business, driving a business, and growing it, but also tangibly doing good stuff for the world around you?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what attracted me to Tipa. I mean, I was at EPAC, and Tipa were one of my suppliers, and were very ambitious about what they wanted to do in Australia, and approached me to be part of it. And when you can mix your passion for growing businesses and actually doing the right thing, that's a rare opportunity. That's a rare opportunity, and to help businesses um, make that move and be a resource for them to rely on to shift, that's an even rarer opportunity as well. So yeah, it does. It gets me out of bed in the morning to do that, to make good. It's hard. It's not an easy space to be in, but that's part of, I suppose, what drives us all is if we got out of bed every day like you did, if you had 1,000 jobs and 1,000 candidates and it was easy, how long till we're all bored? How long till we just go, well, you know what? What's next? And where I am now, every single day is different. Every single day is there's new legislation coming out. There's new findings. There's new studies. There's new things to learn. There's new knowledge that I have to be aware of to pass on to consumers. I'm by no means a finished product in this space. I consider myself knowledgeable and on the way to becoming a subject matter expert, but you're never the finished product.
What's life without a challenge, right? That's I
Correct.
always
Correct.
happiness is solving problems. I always find. What are some of the main? You touched on a few there, I appreciate. But what are some of the main challenges in the role, in the day to day of the running the business?
Yeah, well, it's about building a brand.
Okay.
Before we even get into the dynamics of where the industry sits, it's about building a brand. We are a global brand, but we've had limited presence in Australia. Uh, we basically touched into Australia just before COVID hit, and everything dynamic and change got slowed down through COVID. So we're forming partnerships in Australia. We've got a great partnership. We're working with Amcor, who are producing our product and are helping us grow our brand and scale. We've got a sales force out there now that we're trying to find the right brands to partner up with and work with converters and work with businesses to make this change to a more sustainable option for their packaging. And then you go into the dynamics of that world where, touching on COVID again, the recycling industry is a bit like what happened in COVID. Yes, we're one country, but you have 8 states that are all doing different things. So the recycling industry and the infrastructure and what's capable from state to state, that's a dynamic process as well. In South Australia, our product can go straight into the green bin, into the FOGO bin. Other states, that's not always an option. Some councils will do it. There's pockets where it's allowed, but it's not, by and large, compostable packaging can't go into that, into the green bin across the country. And that's the challenge. That's what we're trying to get businesses to do: is move, be brave, be an early adopter, have that first mover advantage to help us make that change. The more businesses that we have that go, yeah, compostables is a form of packaging that has a certified end of life. Our product in composting conditions will break down and completely disappear in 180 days. So it's about understanding what's going on in the environment and being that resource for business to make change.
And startup mode still, by the sound of things.
Yep.
How big are you guys at the moment? How big are you planning to get? What's the ambition there?
Oh, make no mistake, Joe. We've got ambitions to be a global leader in our space. I would say we already are recognised as one of the global leaders, and we're very ambitious in going into regions. We're in Europe, we're in America, we're now in Australia. We're looking to go into Asia, having conversations about that. We've got ambitions to be the global leader in what we do.
Yeah, love it. And sort of how do you think you'll do that? Is that the main? You talked about getting your name out there as a branding exercise. Is that the main strategy, I guess?
Yeah, and finding the right partners.
Yeah.
So, like I said, our model is we scale with partners. We go into a region and find a partner who we go, you know what, we've got values that align. Um, we can work with you and work with your sales force and be a resource for your sales force to go to market with our product and take it to the brands that you're dealing with every day. Uh, with a brand, with a concept like ours, we're not going to win the battle going door to door.
Right.
We can go find the right businesses that help us scale and look for those businesses that go, yep, we want to be part of you, and get their message out there. And then other people will see it grow. And then through our partners, we'll scale as well. So it's a twofold. It's a branding exercise about getting out there, having conversations like this and making people aware of what we do, but also scaling through our partners and
Yeah.
through customers who come on board. I mean, R&R Smith in Tasmania are one of our organic apples, are one of our key customers. That they do a great job of telling the story of why they shifted to compostable packaging, how it fit with their organic apples. They're the type of partners who go, yeah, you know what, people are going to notice that.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
business with values. That's a business that wants to be different and separate itself and uh, leave the world in a better place. That's a powerful message. And if people see what they're doing, they'll automatically associate us as part of that. Not that reason, but part of we're helping them do that.
Yeah. Gotcha. And on a personal note, mate, you've worked for some, so let's say, bigger, more. You've worked for Bunzl, right? You worked for some big companies.
Yep.
How have you found that transition from going from those larger organizations to now working in the startup environment?
It's a good grounding, but it's also a learning curve as well.
Mm.
It's about taking the strengths of the global businesses I've worked in, like Bunzl and Lyrico, the processes that they have in place that are effective, and also using the fact that you are a startup to be nimble enough to go, you know what, we are doing that, but that's not working, so we can make that change quicker.
Mm.
It's about taking the best of both worlds, but we're coming out of that corporate world gives you great grounding. The lessons I learned and the processes and the structures, as much as people go, that's boring, it gives you freedom. If you don't have those things in place, you're continually chasing your tail. So to be successful, you got to have those structures in place and got to have those processes to understand who your customers are, who you're going after, so you can actually grow. Because if you don't have that in place, you're herding cats all day. You're trying to get one thing done, then you get another thing done. There's no real structure to it. So it's given me the grounding to do both.
Yeah. So reflecting then a little bit, then going back in the past, you touched upon, you mentioned Lyrico,
Yep.
Bunzel, two large, well-established companies that you've
Yep.
worked for in the past. The lessons you've learned from those businesses you're now applying and using now in the current role. Reflecting a little bit, what are some of the main lessons you learned from working in those larger corporates?
The major thing about it I've learned, it doesn't matter how big or how small your business is, as a leader, if you're not invested in your people, and I've never forgot this, that people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care.
Right.
People don't want to learn from you if they think that you're looking at them as purely a resource to produce revenue or to execute a task, and that's all you're there for. It's about understanding that, okay, what makes Joe tick that doesn't make Shane tick, that doesn't make Alice tick, that doesn't make Maria tick. Somehow you've got to find a way to make all those people believe in what you're trying to achieve as a business, but at the same time have their personal development and who they are at heart as well. Once you get people on board with that, you can't help but create a culture where you grow.
So it sounds like that's a leadership lesson you learned, putting other people's interest ahead of yours. Is that something that you learn quickly, or it took time to develop that sort of people, your team first mentality?
Yeah, good question. It's probably been a change in business overall. I mean, when I first started, everything was I am in charge. My title says you will do this
Yeah.
for me. There was no debate or there was no interaction with it. Where that's moved to now, where servant leadership is probably the way forward. Where I'm here to serve the people.
Mm.
How do I make it easier for you to do your job? How do I remove the roadblocks that every day you go make it hard for me to accomplish what you want? That's what you need to be doing. You're here to serve. It's not that just because you got a title or a fancy office or some hierarchy there. Modern business, that doesn't really apply. It gives you structure and it gives you a framework to make decisions. But the days of sitting there and going, well, I've got the title. I'm not worried about what you five people think. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Now, you may listen to everyone and still not make the decision that they want, but you're listening to it and you are helping them understand how you come to decisions and move your business forward.
Mm. And something you said earlier about understanding the team and understand what makes them tick and really understand them as a person. What are some of the techniques you use to do that, to really understand, say how it worked for you, right? Say, how would you go about understanding what I care about? What's the sort of process there?
Yeah, it's one of the lessons I learned. I always thought that salespeople were purely motivated by commissions and money, and they are to a point. But I managed someone who gave me the feedback of, I feel valued by when we get together in a team environment with the team and with the broader company. You point out in front of people what my contribution is. That makes me feel valued because you make people aware of what I bring to the business. Now, I only learnt that because sitting with a person and understanding what their drivers were. Once you start to understand that, I always thought, well, if I just give that person a bigger pay increase, or if they make more commissions, they'll be happy. No, they need to feel valued. And the only reason you did that is because you got to understand what makes them tick. You sat with them. What are your goals? Where do you want to be in 2 years? What do you think you need to work on? What areas are you aware of that you think you need work on? And what areas am I seeing that I think you need work on? Let's try and make you a bit individual. And once you start to have those conversations, invariably people give you the feedback of, hey, that works for me, or I need to hear that from you, or this is how I like to be managed, because one size doesn't fit all.
Mm. Yeah, it's a bit wanky, but like everyone's why is different. Not everyone's why is just making money. As you say, some people they want to be known as, if they're just known as the top dog in the office, that's enough for them.
That's enough.
Or if
Your why, mate. That's the old. Who says that? I bet you'll say it straight away. Who's that?
Simon Sinek.
Yeah, and he comes back to what is the why, and
Yeah.
he's right. And I get frustrated with people like Simon because he makes something that's so incredibly hard, cuts it down to 3 sentences, and as soon as you hear it, you go, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. He's taken such a complex
Yeah.
issue of how do I get the best out of people to what's their why?
Yeah.
And as managers, that's our job. Find out what the why is. As leaders, and I think the word manager is even becoming a bit of a thing in the past. It's lead.
Mm, mm,
It's how do you lead? How do you be a leader to make people feel like that they're achieving what they want and that your business is going in the right direction? And again,
yeah.
the other thing I've learned, mate, is when you're doing that thing, people talk about hard conversations. How do you have a hard conversation? I've always managed people that if you're having regular communication and you're being upfront, you're saying, "Hey Joe, you know what? I need this, this, and this from you." And then we get back together and you haven't done it. That's not a hard conversation. That's me saying, "Hey Joe, I thought we agreed this is what we needed.
Right.
You're not really executing it. Why is that?" And then if you go away and we have another conversation, I'm clear and say, "Joe, I need this, this, and this. This is you clear on that? Yeah, I understand, Shane. This one, you crystal clear. Yep." They come back again and go, well, "Hang on, why aren't we doing this?" Invariably, people go, "Yeah, maybe this isn't for me." Hard conversations are only required when you haven't communicated effectively as a leader.
Mm.
Otherwise, you should be having that communication where you know what they want from you, they know what you want, and you're working towards it.
You mentioned there about management or the term management becoming a thing of the past. I'm often thinking about leadership versus management. What is the difference? What do they mean? How they differ to you?
Management's purely about how to execute a task. It's task driven, it feels like, where leadership's about making people want to do that task or do those things that you need to achieve your goals as a business. Management is basically, "Joe, you do this, this, and this for me." Where I feel like leadership is, "Hey, Joe, your role in the business, what I need from you so we can all achieve is this, this, and this. If you get that done, we can achieve." It's the same thing. It's just delivered in a different manner. And it's about, and it's, I hate the phrase, you hear it on every reality show and management course you ever go on, but somehow you got to take people on the journey with you. You've got to make them feel like that they want to work for you, not against you. People join an organization because they believe in that company, but my opinion is that they leave then because of the leaderships within that company. They're attracted to the brand, and then they leave because of what goes on internally.
Yeah, there's that saying. I can't remember what exactly it is, but they don't leave companies; they leave people or leave leaders or something like
Managers,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
leaders,
yeah,
yeah. I truly believe there's some truth to that.
yeah. Going back to what you're saying about uncovering, someone's why. Then you said like you do that often. You sit them down, you sit your team down. I guess those one-on-ones are pretty important to your leadership style, by the sound of things. Any tips, or how do you go about sort of even structuring your one-on-ones with your team, either present or in the past?
Yeah, it's got to be reasonably simple. I think that when you're doing one-on-ones, if someone has to prepare 3 hours for a one-on-one with you, something's wrong. That's too much. I always believe that in your direct reports, you're meeting with them once a week, and you have your reviews with them once a fortnight or whenever you decide it is. But when you're engaging daily, you should be on task and know what it is. And those one-to-ones are about, okay, these are our key issues that we're trying to, these are our key things we're trying to achieve. These are the issues that are holding us back. How do we take those out of the picture for you? And then in those one-to-ones, you become to understand, well, that person, what do they want? Where do they want their career to go? What do they want from you? What do they value? What's their why? It's about, when you're doing your one-to-ones, you have conversations with people, and the listening skill of hearing what they did on the weekend or what they do outside of work, what makes them, what's their happy space. You start to get a feel for who people are. So questions and then listening will invariably lead you to what their why is. And you might go, "Hey, Joe, I think that this is what you're passionate about and this is what you like and this is how you like to be led from what you told me. Is that right?" And even if you're wrong, people will appreciate that you've tried to reach out to them. "Well, no, I actually like this and this is what it is." Okay, now we understand.
Goes back to what you were saying at the start, really, about just genuinely caring about the team and caring about their. If you're genuine enough when you do those and you ask those questions, the why will often
Yeah.
come out.
It's about that authentic leadership. And Ben Crow at Mojo, he's someone who I think is fantastic in this space, about being your authentic self, allowing you to be yourself as a leader will invariably allow your staff to be themselves and bring out their authentic version of themselves. If they think you're plastic and just a corporate beast in front of them who's there for that reason only, you're probably not going to get past that shell. But if you're your authentic self, show some vulnerability, tell your stuff. I don't have all the answers. This is our target. This is our goal. I think we've got some issues that we're not seeing because we haven't got there, but I don't know what the answers are. I need your help. I think that's the type of thing. If you're authentic and go, how can you help me achieve and how can I help you achieve? That's when you start to get somewhere. And you only know you've got a good culture when it goes bad. Because all of a sudden you look around and you go, hey, things weren't like this 3 or 4 months ago. And then to get back to the point of where it was good, that's hard work. You've got to start again. And that's why if you continually having the one-to-ones and having these updates, hopefully you understand where everyone's at.
Gotcha. So your leadership journey yourself, then I know you've been a manager, been a leader for a long time now. But
Too long.
how did you transition into that? Did you always see yourself as a natural leader? Was it always an ambition? How did you, I guess, transition into it?
I was probably always naturally curious as to why people did things. So even when you weren't in a management role, I always wanted to find out, hey, what do you think of this? Why is that the way it is? And I think natural curiosity is a part of leadership. Um, I was happy in the sales space, and as I evolved at Lyrico, you may have had project teams who you would lead a national account, but you were based in Melbourne, and you had someone doing work for you in Perth or Brisbane on that customer. So you had to have a little bit of leadership to execute what you needed, and then it just developed to the point where you think, yeah, you know what? And I think we all get there in our sales roles where you go, I'm never perfect, but what's left to learn isn't as much as there would be to learn as if I was a leader. So it's about getting to that. I found I got to that point in sales where I go, you know what? I think I'm okay at it. I think my results were really good. I was achieving, but what was left to learn wasn't enough to keep me getting out of bed every morning and feeling enthused. And I didn't want to get into that position where you're on autopilot. You're not getting the best out of yourself. So then I looked at leadership as something where, and it doesn't matter how long I've been in it, 15 years, I'm by no means a finished product and still evolving. That's what probably attracted me to leadership to get to that point.
And it's then that new ceiling's hit is like, how can I've hit, sort of hit the ceiling in my sales role. Now
Yep.
the next thing is I want to develop people. I want to build them
Yep.
through and take them on the journey. And
Yep.
that's super important. You touched upon there, you're still evolving. You're still, always things to improve on. Don't want to put you on the spot too much, but where do you think you can improve as a leader?
I think we can all come from a position of kindness more. I think I'm okay on that front. But if you can make generous assumptions about people, I don't think anyone gets out of bed and goes, I'm going to go to work and I'm going to do something that's going to annoy Joe today. That's my goal.
Yeah.
Right. And something may happen where your first inclination is to be, what were you possibly thinking? Why would you do that? And get angry. But if you start from generous assumptions always about why people do things, as a leader, that's something you can always be better on. That's a personality trait. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You don't know that, they've got a baby that they haven't slept all night and they're tired and they're rushing to work to get to a key appointment and they cut you off in traffic and you think you're the you're hard done by. So it's things about that as a person where you go, you know what? You can't really control what happens to you in life, but you can control how you respond. You're never going to be perfect in every situation, but that's where I look and you can keep evolving on that front. I always think that every successful salesperson, manager, operations manager, whatever position they're in, they're well prepared. They're just well prepared. So for meetings before you go into them, having as much knowledge as you can, not walking in the door and feeling like, oh God, I hope they don't ask about this because I'm not prepared enough. So preparation's always something you want to give yourself time to be prepared, and well planned out. They're probably the things I look at and go, if I can be well prepared, plan my day correctly, and operate on an assumption of generosity that everyone's trying their best, I can always be working on those things.
Now, say someone's listening to this and they're thinking, Shane's very passionate about leadership. I really want to step into a new role like that. I want to manage a team. This is me. Say this is them starting out day one on Monday in a new leadership role. What advice would you give them?
Be yourself. Don't try and be the wolf on Wall Street. Don't try and be anyone that you think's a good leader. Take facets of multiple people that you like about their leadership style and try and incorporate into that who you are. Have a good understanding of self. As a leader, what do you want to represent to your people? Doesn't matter what industry. Think about how you like to be led and the good things that how you responded well, and be generous. Go to your people. Say, this is what we want to do. How you find the role. Just be open and be honest. Ask questions. How you've enjoyed your role. What would you like to see done differently? Be someone who, one of the best compliments I ever got as a leader was someone said to me, I wasn't afraid to fail in front of you. I wasn't afraid to come to you and say, I went to a meeting and it bombed. This happened and this happened. They weren't afraid to come and have that conversation and say, how can I avoid that next time? So if you can create an environment where people want to try things that are comfortable in failure and don't feel embarrassed or threatened, that's the environment where you go, yeah, we're going to succeed because people are trying.
Yeah.
So that would be yourself, know who you are, and understand what your people want.
And you mentioned about maybe learning from other leaders. You've touched upon there a few resources. I think people you've learned from in
Yep.
your past. I gather you're a bit of a constant student of your craft yourself. I can see a big bookcase behind you on the screen.
Yep.
What resources would you say have helped? Any books or anything? Any authors or let's say content creators that you followed over the years that have guided you that you would advise maybe any salespeople, any leadership, people with leadership ambitions to study?
Yeah. Just looking up, I've got some leadership books up here. Ryan Holiday is someone who I really admire. The Daily Stoic, I think he's fantastic. His book, The Obstacle Is the Way. They're great. Like all good leaders, he's got the ability to tell a story, and that's probably one of the biggest things as leaders you need to be able to do is you need to be a storyteller. That's probably the biggest skill in market at the moment is being a storyteller. How can what you do, how can you create a narrative that your customers, your staff are going to buy into to be part of? So I read his stuff religiously about what he does. I read his books
Yeah.
probably 2 or 3 times a year, where he puts snippets of history of examples of what he's trying to teach and how it can be implemented into your every day. Simon Sinek's another one. He's brilliant. There's so many leaders. I don't try and look at one area, even though you have your typical business leaders. Go outside of that. I mean, I've read a lot of stuff by Phil Jackson, who was the coach of the LA Lakers, and he adopted Indian philosophy, the American Indian philosophies into coaching and getting a group to buy in. I think you can get a lot of stuff from sports leadership, from political leaders. I don't think there's one. It's about finding what resonates with you, finding someone who you go, yeah, that makes sense, and go down that wormhole for what they do. Take a little bit from them, and then go find someone else. But yeah, Ryan Holiday, Simon Sinek, Phil Jackson. Let me have a look at my books while I'm here. Tim Ferriss, Tribe of Mentors. That's another one. That's a really good. I probably would say that one for anyone who's looking for snippets of everyone. Even though it's a reasonably big book, it's 2 or 3 pages on everyone. So that's one that I would Tribe of Mentors. I would absolutely recommend that for anyone who's looking for a read on leadership and advice on how to achieve. That's a really good one. But you've got to find your own. You've got to find
Yeah.
what resonates with you.
Yeah. Out of the stuff you just mentioned there, for me, that Ryan Holiday, "Ego is the Enemy," that book is
Yep.
one I read. I try and reread a lot. I don't, I always think the best books you want to try and reread. Like that's just, I don't know, that really stuck with me, that book, and I try and that whole your biggest opponent is always yourself. That
Yeah.
message in that book just stuck with me so clearly.
Oh,
Um,
mate, I'm glad to hear that because with him, and he's another one who you read something and you kind of you read it again and get mad and go, how can someone take a complex human emotion or human facet of leadership and simplify it where you go, yeah, that's pretty obvious. And
yeah,
most things in leadership are. Once you see them,
yeah,
you go, that's pretty obvious. But if you're not aware of it and you don't know, it goes back to self-awareness, knowing what you're good at, knowing what you're not good at, and surrounding yourself. I always try and surround my staff with with people that I think can help me be better, and can help me on my weaknesses and be an asset to what I'm trying to do as a person as well.
Like we've talked about your past, we've talked about what you're doing at the moment, in the present. What about the future? What is the next? I know you don't have a crystal ball and hard to predict, but what does the future hold for you? What can I expect from you in the next
Uh,
couple of years? So,
I'm happy to say, mate, I don't know. I
mm,
want to build Tipper. I'm really passionate about what we're doing here. I think we've seen a shift in marketplace and around thinking about careers. Is if I'm all for, if you find a job that you love and it's something that gets you out of bed, everyone you're passionate about, stay there for as long as you are in that mindset. But I feel like post COVID, our thinking's now about, you know what? I'm going to go somewhere where I love and where I'm passionate about. And it doesn't have to be 5 or 10 years. If it's 2 years, if it's 3 years, if it's 18 months, if it's not the right position for you or something comes along that sparks your interest, go for it. Go for it. Oh, a recruiter, you might ring me tomorrow and say you've got a role that I think you'd be crazy not to look at. Um, and it might be the one. So for me, I'm open to everything. I'm open about staying in this leadership space, passionate about building businesses, passionate about sustainability, passionate about building people. It's about finding that little intersection of what those things are. I'm one subject away from finishing my MBA. That's something I look forward to finishing off. I'm always a believer in you should be studying something. It doesn't have to be official, but just be reading and working on something. You go, hey, I want to learn more about that, because the less you use your brain, though, I think the more it turns into mush. So
yeah,
always keep it tipping. It's no different to exercise or muscles in the gym. Keep using it.
yeah.
And that's just what I want to keep doing.
Mm. And that leads me on very nicely to my closing question on this show, which is you talked about what you're passionate about there. You talked a little bit about get what gets you out of bed in the morning. My final question is to you, Shane. The idea of success, and this can be any way, which way, life, professional, personal. What does success mean to Shane Sullivan?
That's the fortune cookie question, isn't it? That's what they put in 5 words. It's a really good question. I think for me, it's about happiness. It's
Mm,
about feeling like you're engaged enough in your career and enough at home where you're challenged, but you're happily challenged. It's about enjoying what you do. It's never going to be easy, and you have to accept that life's going to throw challenges at you left, right, and center. It's never going to be that straight road where everything's easy, but getting as much enjoyment out of you can out of the things that you're doing. And if you're doing something regularly and you're not enjoying it, whether that's a work or a relationship or someone you deal with, a coffee shop keep getting the order wrong, change it. Cut it out. Don't keep doing things that make you unhappy. That's hard. That's hard to do. But that's what I want to keep doing, is keep changing things till you find that point where you go, yeah, things are pretty good. I'm happy. I still want to improve on things, but overall life's pretty good.
love it, mate. Shane Sullivan, thank you very much for joining me on the show. Heaps of valuable insights there for anyone in, I guess, any kind of sales role, any kind of leadership role, any kind of leading teams, leading businesses. If you listen to that, plenty to take away from Shane. So thank you very much, mate, for joining me. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, mate. Been a pleasure.